Well, I'm joined on the line now by Giorgio Cafiero, who is at the Doha Forum, and he joins me on the line. He's the CEO of geopolitical risk consulting firm Gulf State Analytics. Appreciate you taking the time, Giorgio. And you'll have listened, no doubt, to some of those comments as they were made by senior figures in geopolitics. Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, he said that it's a narrowing chance of negotiating peace, but he did say, look, we've already negotiated previously that 7-day pause. So he thinks that he has still some kind of clout to perhaps arrange something. But what powers does Qatar have in terms of either persuading or encouraging Israel to negotiate peace?
Well, it's a very difficult situation. It's extremely challenging for Qatar. But nonetheless, as I'm sure all your viewers know, since 2006, Doha has been a mediator between Israel and Hamas. And past armed conflicts between the two sides resulted in ceasefires that Qatari diplomats worked very hard to mediate. And the recent pause that took place in the warfare and the release of hostages from both sides was made possible due to Qatari as well as Egyptian mediation. Qatar believes it has no choice but to continue down this path of diplomacy and trying to get both sides to agree to, at minimum, some humanitarian pauses, but ideally a lasting ceasefire. There are so many factors that make it incredibly difficult, but Qatar seems to be very determined to push ahead with these efforts, as challenging as it will be.
What's most likely to be effective in this situation, the carrot or the stick?
Well, as far as Qatar goes, its influence really has a lot to do with its mediation capabilities. Qatar is very unique in the Arab world, given the relationship that it has with Hamas on one side and the relationship which it has with Israel and the United States on the other. That being said, it's difficult for Qatar to have influence over the Netanyahu government, which is very extremist, as everyone knows, on one side, and also the military wing of Hamas on the other. Qatar has influence with Hamas's political branch, but and that's a political branch that has been represented here in Doha by several Hamas leaders since 2012. But in terms of the military wing of Hamas, Qatar has very little influence over that part of the organization. So while Qatar is the Arab state that's best positioned to mediate, I repeat once again, it's a very big challenge for even Doha.
Is it going to take one of Israel's allies to intervene and persuade them in some form? Obviously, the US is the obvious candidate, but I mean, the UK abstained in the vote. Is it going to take a sort of somebody who hasn't opposed them to change their direction in order to make things go in a different direction?
I believe that the United States is the only country in the world that has the leverage over Israel that is necessary to bring this conflict to an end, to bring an end to Israel's bombardment of Gaza. I do not think there is another country in the West or really anywhere else in the world that has the means to do so. This comes down to the situation in Washington. For now, the Biden administration is giving Israel ironclad support. Unless and until that changes, I don't think we can expect any huge shifts in Israel's conduct, unfortunately.
Giorgio, really appreciate your time. Good to speak to you. Giorgio Cafiero, my guest, CEO of Gulf State Analytics.